Good morning, Tigers. Today is Wednesday, April 8, 2020, and this is guided reading for Tigers. Our lesson is number 130, day 2, and the book is The Princess and the Pea. Here are some of the supplies that you will need today. You will need some letter tiles, and I, and A, PP, L, Y, H. So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. If you have these, great. If not, you can just follow along with me. But if you have your own letter tiles, be sure to pull those out. You'll also need your sticky Post-it notes today. So if your mom or dad has a stack of Post-it notes, get those out. Pencil and the book, The Princess and the Pea. I'll give you a few moments to collect your supplies, or you can also pause the video right now and collect everything you need, and then we will begin. All right. Let's go ahead and begin today by getting ready to model a strategy. The model of the strategy is we're going to be talking about key words in the story. Key words help us know what's happening in a story. You can move your letter tiles off to the side. We won't use those right now. Right now you will need your book and you will need those Post-it notes. Now on my board, I put 5 Post-it notes, and next to each Post-it note, friend, is a number. These are actually page numbers. This tells me where my Post-its go. You don't have to make a board like this. I just laid it out so you could see it nicely. If you have your pad of Post-it notes ready to go and your book, you're set. So you really only need these 2 things. This just helps you see where we're going to put them, okay? Let's open up to our first page, page 2. Page 2. There it is. And we're going to put a Post-it on that page. So grab that Post-it and let's put it right there next to page 2, okay? That way I can still read and then write. Next, we're going to be taking page 6. So let's find page 6. Page 6 is here. So I'll take another Post-it and put it right next to page 6 so that I can still do my reading and my writing. Okay? Now we're going to go to what page? Page 9. Let's find page 9. On page 9, let's grab that Post-it and let's put it right below the words. That way I can still do my reading and then write down some key words. My next page is page 13. Let's go to page 13 together. Right here. Let's grab another Post-it and place it on page 13. Good. And our last page is page 16. So let's turn to page 16. Oh, it's our last page. I'm going to take that Post-it and place it right at the bottom. Now I'm ready to go. All right. I can actually just get rid of all this. As long as I have my pencil now and my book, I'm ready to go. So today we're going to be reading, again, Princess and the Pea together. Whenever we get to a page that has one of those Post-its, we're going to stop and try to think of some key words to describe that page. Key words would be any word that's pretty important and special on that page. Let's read together. The Princess and the Pea. Retold by Rose Lewis. Illustrated by Max Stasiuk. The Princess and the Pea. Here we go, friends. Once upon a time, there was a prince who wanted to marry a princess. The prince traveled all over the world looking for a princess to marry. He met many princesses, but each time he was unsure. He would wonder, is she really a princess? How can I be sure? Let's pause here because I see a post-it. What's a key word from this first page? Okay. Write down one or two of your keywords. I'm going to choose a couple myself. All right, I chose traveled and prince because here it's talking about how the prince traveled all over the world. What words did you choose? Okay, let's move on. Finally, the prince gave up his search and returned to his castle. I have not been able to find a princess to marry, he told the king and queen sadly. Soon after the prince had arrived home, the sky grew dark. It began to thunder and lightning flashed across the sky. Buckets of rain poured from the sky. Suddenly, there was a knock at the castle door. The king opened the door. A young woman was standing there. She was soaking wet from head to toe. Could you please give me shelter until the storm passes? The young woman asked the king. I am a princess. I have been traveling and I have lost my way. Come in, invited the king. He went to tell the queen and prince about their guest. Now let's look, we have a post-it. Write down one or two important key words from this page. All right, what keywords did you choose? All right, I chose woman and wet. Let's move on. The queen was very excited to learn that there was a princess in the castle. Maybe this could be a real princess for my son, she thought. But after the queen met the young woman, she thought, a princess? She doesn't look much like a princess. The queen did not say anything about her doubts. Instead, she went off to prepare a room for their guest. Oh, I see a note, so be thinking about what keywords you'll take from page 9. Here we go. The queen removed all the bedding from the guest bed and placed a pea at the bottom. Then she took 20 mattresses and put them on top of the pea. Next, she added 20 feather quilts. What one or two key words would you take out of page 9? Go ahead and write one or two words that you think are important. All right. What words did you choose, friends? Okay. I chose pea and mattresses. Let's move on. Page 10. Soon we will know if she is a real princess, thought the queen. The queen led the princess to her room. Sleep well, my dear, she said. Thank you. I am sure I will. I am very tired, the princess replied as she climbed up onto the bed. The next morning, the princess went into the breakfast room. Good morning, she said. Good morning, said the prince. I hope you slept well, said the queen. I am sorry to tell you that I slept very poorly, said the princess. I tossed and turned all night long. There was something very hard and lumpy in my bed, she told them. I am black and blue all over. What key word would you take from this page? Write it down now. All right, what words did you choose? Okay, I chose lumpy and princess. Let's turn to page 14. The queen smiled happily. Now she knew that the princess was a real princess because she had felt the pea right through the 20 mattresses and quilts. Only a real princess would feel a small pea under so many soft mattresses and quilts. Page 16. The queen shared the good news with the king and prince. The prince married the princess. He was very happy because he knew his bride was a real princess, and everyone lived happily ever after. All right. Pick one or two keywords from this page, friends, and write them down. All right. What words did you choose? I chose married, real, and happily. All right, friends. If I were to make a chart with my words, I would go back all the way to the beginning. And if you want to, you can with me get your whiteboard out. You don't have to. But I would like you to follow along with me as we make a chart with our important words. At the beginning of my book, I'm going to write the word first, like that, first. And let's go to the very first page that we marked. It was right here on page 2, traveled and prince. Now, if you have different words than teacher, you could write down your different words. Then I could write next. And go to my next page. That would be on page 6 and 7. I would write woman and wet. If you have different words on page 6 or from page 6, go ahead and write your words. I'm going to write woman and wet. My next transitional word is going to be then. And then I'll write my next words, P in mattresses. Then my next transitional phrase will be and then. So we have then, and then. I would go to lumpy and princesses or princess. And my last transitional phrase would be at the end. Of course, I'd go to my very last page and I'd see married, real, and happily. There you go. So I used my Post-it notes to help me organize my thoughts and keywords, and then I was able to put those keywords under some transitional phrases. This is all going to help me when I'm retelling the story, which was our comprehension focus for this story. We wanted to retell using key details. It would sound something like this. First, the prince traveled all over the countryside, looking for a woman to marry. It was important to the prince that he marry a princess. Next, a big storm came, and someone knocked at the door. The king answered, and he saw a woman who was all wet, looking for a place to stay. Then the queen decided she wanted to know if she was a real princess. So the queen put a P under 20 mattresses. And then the princess woke up the next morning and said, I slept horrible because my bed was all lumpy and bumpy. And the queen thought, oh, she must be a real princess. Only a real princess would think that that bed was lumpy and bumpy from just a small little green pea. And in the end, the prince and the princess were married, and he was so happy to have finally found a real princess, and they lived happily ever after. So, Tigers, you could also practice retelling your story. You could make a board like this, using your words that you wrote. If you have time, or if you have someone who will listen, take time to use these transitional words and the key words to retell the story in your own way. All right. The very last activity is kind of a little challenge. You'll need your tiles out. I have an I, A, P, P, L, Y, H. Looking at these 7 letters, can you make a word from our story? Can you think of a word that you could spell using these tiles? I'm going to give you a clue. The PP stays together. Do you see any letters down here that make an ending that you know? An ending that you might know? Yes, how about LY? Let's make an ending that we know. Now, what should we add? Maybe oh, we saw this I. Where should that go? Happily. Oh, I hear it. How about here? Did you see that, friends, with your letters? Happily? Yes. If I were to separate my word happily into 3 sounds, because it is 3 syllables, happily, I would keep my hap together, Hap-I-ly. Say it with me again. Hap-I-ly. Now let's put them all together. Happily. Happily. And look at right there. That was one of the key words I found and chose to write down in my book, happily. The prince and princess lived happily ever after. All right, again, if you have time or you would like to, please practice retelling your story. Use your transitional words. Make sure to add in your keywords like I did from your Post-it notes, and then use this board or use your paper to retell the story in your own words. I love you, and I'll see you later, Tigers.